She had a sparkle about her that shined from within.
She just had everything going for her.
Everybody wanted to be around Danielle. They loved her.
She made you feel happy.
And he was someone who filled her with that same happiness.
He had just come back from overseas.
They had this instant chemistry.
He was very nice to her and catering to her.
But just when things seemed perfect, their future is shattered by a violent attack.
I was laying on the floor with her until they came.
I don't think I've ever been that devastated.
As investigators begin examining the fragments of the night's events, they'll shine a light on the splintered details of a love gone wrong.
They knew something was off.
They had a love triangle on their hands.
Man, I'm trying to figure out what the hell going on, bro.
But when the case threatens to implode,
they realize that he has lied to them.
I looked at him, and I said, I look like a demon.
police fear it will be impossible to discern the truth from the lies.
He's going to try to kill one of them, or they're going to kill him.
He told detectives, what I have to say, you're not going to believe.
I was like, oh, hell no. Ain't nobody gonna believe that I wasn't the one to pull the trigger.
You shouldn't be killing people just because your feelings are hurt. That's weak.
January 11th, 2009. As the holiday hustle fades, citizens of Jacksonville are looking forward to a new year on Florida's eastern coastline.
Jacksonville is a big city with a small town feel. One of the really cool things about living here is a lot of people know each other.
We have a pretty thriving downtown, a lot of entertainment in the city center.
It's a place where you feel the love, you feel, the excitement.
But at 3 p.m., 56-year-old Janice Stubbs is starting to panic.
Jacksonville 911, Hodges.
Yes, I need to get an officer.
She calls the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office to report her daughter, Danielle Stubbs, missing.
Danielle had made plans to go with her mother to actually go shopping.
I was sitting at home and I was waiting for her to call me, and she never called. And I'm like, what in the world is going on?
When's the last time you saw her?
Yesterday at 4 o'clock.
So all day long, I'm worried. And I call her phone. She never answered the phone, nothing.
Is it out of character for her to go missing?
It's very out of character.
I'm going to send a police officer out to you.
Danielle's mother tells police that she and her family are going to wait at Danielle's townhouse until officers arrive to assist them.
I just looked at my husband and my son. I said, let's just go.
Minutes later, the Stubbs family arrives at Danielle's home.
As soon as they got there, they noticed that her car wasn't in the driveway.
And when the parents knocked on the door, they couldn't get in, they didn't get a response.
Danielle's family tries to be patient for police arrival, but as time ticks away, the family only becomes more concerned.
Like any mother, Danielle's mother is getting very impatient, so they actually call again.
Jacksonville 911.
Yes, they haven't came out yet. I'm really nervous.
The officer has been assigned, but they're on another call right now.
I really need to get this in motion.
Okay, ma'am. The officer will be there.
With no idea when police will arrive, Danielle's brother decides to take action.
No, I can't wait no more. I'm going around back.
Her brother decides, you know what, I'm gonna go look around on my own. He goes to the back of the house, finds the door unlocked, goes inside, and then goes to the front door to open the door for his parents.
Danielle! Danielle, is she here?
Danielle!
Is she here?
They were calling out for Danielle, got no response, so the brother finally went to check the bedroom. When he went into the bedroom, he saw what no one would want to see.
Danielle's brother found her on the floor in her bedroom.
Oh, no, no! No!
Did you find
Did you find her?
Danielle's family makes another desperate call to 911.
Jacksonville 911. Sir, what happened?
Danielle's brother can barely communicate.
Since she was a child, Danielle Stubbs made it a point to always look her best.
Everybody, people I didn't even know, would be like, oh God, that girl, she's just so beautiful. So that was her little nickname to the community, Miss Beautiful.
When I first met her, to be honest, I was a little intimidated. She was so pretty. She kept her hair, her nails, her outfits always together.
She was very much a girly girl. She had lipstick on, wore makeup, loved eyelashes, just pretty things.
She never went out the house without her bracelets, and she always had on a heel. She rarely wore tennis shoes.
But while Danielle had incomparable style, it wasn't the only reason people called her Miss Beautiful.
Her personality, she's beautiful inside and out. Everybody wanted to be around Danielle. They loved her.
I didn't know anything negative about Danielle. It was crazy. She was very giving.
She made you feel happy.
When 26-year-old Danielle wasn't spending time with family or friends, she was putting in long hours at work.
She was actually working 2 jobs.
She worked full-time in hospital administration in the emergency room at Jacksonville Naval Air Station.
The doctors there, they really enjoyed being around her.
And then she also worked with her mother at their family business in the beauty salon.
She did hair at her mom's shop. She was a braider, but she did a lot of other styles as well, too.
Danielle was really independent. She fully supported herself and just genuinely enjoyed her life.
Danielle, she took very good care of herself. She made sure she always kept herself together. She never asked anybody for anything. She was an awesome person.
Like many women in their 20s, one of Danielle's favorite pastimes was enjoying the nightlife her city had to offer.
Danielle was living the life of what most girls her age would do. She was not married yet, but certainly dating and enjoying going out with her friends.
And in the spring of 2008, a typical night out would change Danielle's life forever.
Danielle was out with some co-workers when she met 24-year-old Justin McMillan.
Hey, that next round's on me.
Oh, thank you.
When Danielle and Justin met, they had this instant chemistry.
No, you really didn't have to do that.
A beautiful girl like you deserve it.
He was very nice to her and catering to her.
It was so easy for them to just open up to one another.
The two of them talked for hours.
He had just came home from being overseas. He spent 2 years in Iraq working with the military as a personal trainer.
Justin was originally from Georgia and had 2 young kids that still lived there with their mother.
So he disclosed all these things to Danielle about what was happening in his life. He had been separated from his wife, and apparently that marriage was ending, but he still wanted to be able to spend time with his kids.
He was feeling a little bit lost. He had just moved back to Florida and was staying with some family until he kind of figured things out.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Divorce is so hard.
Danielle had just this big heart and a giving spirit.
If you need anything, I'm here for you.
That means a lot.
From there, the relationship between Danielle and Justin took off.
Justin was staying with Danielle quite frequently.
She was having fun. He was just doing what she needed him to do to make her feel secure in a relationship.
I think Danielle liked that Justin had a lot of time for her. He was open to going to family functions and just basically being a good boyfriend to her.
They even discussed getting engaged after Justin's divorce was finalized.
But now Danielle's panicked family is on the phone with 911 after discovering her lifeless body on her bedroom floor.
I just found her dead.
Okay, where was she cut or shot or how was she killed?
I don't know, she's been put in the blood.
The police are on the way and ambulance as well.
At that point, she was already gone. And I just started rubbing her back, rubbing her back. And I was laying on the floor with her until they came.
Police arrived within minutes, like she had it all.
People called Danielle Miss Beautiful, and it was quite evident that she was beautiful inside and out.
And with her handsome boyfriend, Justin McMillan, by her side, the sky was the limit for the couple.
These two really hit it off. Everything just was working. It was like a match made in heaven.
But just hours after reporting her missing, Danielle's family has made a heart-wrenching discovery. Danielle lifeless on the floor of her bedroom.
For us, we were in shock. My baby was gone. She was gone.
The shock waves from Danielle's death echo throughout the community.
I don't think I've ever been that devastated. I hadn't really experienced that kind of hurt.
It was just very devastating. It was more hurtful for me to just see her family just torn apart like that, to be honest. It was just hard.
Homicide detectives are determined to get to the bottom of this tragedy.
Their objective at that point was to process how it happened.
They've noticed multiple gunshot wounds, one in the arm and one in the head.
Police found 2 spent .45 caliber shell casings around Danielle's body and collected it as evidence.
Investigators immediately rule out robbery as the motive for this crime.
They noticed there weren't really any signs or obvious evidence as showing like someone had broken into her home.
There's no signs of forced entry or any valuables missing. So at this point, it's more likely that Danielle was killed by a person that she trusted and had access to her home.
Back at the station, detectives reach out to one of those trusted individuals, Danielle's boyfriend, Justin McMillan.
He had called the police station several times asking to speak with them while they were at the crime scene.
Hey Justin, how you doing? I got a couple messages to give you a call.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what the hell going on, bro.
He said as soon as he heard the news that Danielle was gone, the first thing he did was call Jacksonville police.
Okay. Well, good. Well, then maybe you can help me out a little bit. Is there anything maybe that you might be able to tell me that might be able to help us? When's that last time you've actually seen her, talk to her?
It was probably about 6 o'clock Saturday evening.
About 6 o'clock the night before, she invited him to go out with her along with her co-workers out to a club, and he declined the offer.
Justin claims that he went to spend time with his family, and Danielle was supposed to call him when she got home.
This is crazy, because, she told me she was going to call me as soon as she left the club, because she wanted me to spend the night with her.
Right.
Because I was leaving. I was just going to move back to Georgia.
Justin explains that he and Danielle had recently decided to end their relationship.
Due to Justin having personal business, I'm assuming with his kids needing to go back to Georgia, that was going to be the end of them.
Justin said that it was an amicable breakup, that there was no hard feelings.
You can ask any of her friends or parents, man, they have not gotten into one altercation. Right.
But Justin says he never heard from Danielle that night.
Justin tells detectives that he was supposed to hear from Danielle before the club closed, but when he didn't, he decided, okay, well, I might as well hit the road and head to Georgia.
So what time do you think he was out of Jacksonville?
It was maybe 2.
He says he's been in Georgia ever since, but got worried when he hadn't heard from her.
So is there anything that you know, maybe someone has been upset with her or people she's been hanging out with or anything?
All right, it was this guy. About, I'm gonna say 2.5 weeks ago. I was driving her car because she took my car and went to the beauty salon. And I was at the gas station. Went to go get me something to drink and a pack of Black & Mild.
It was then that Justin ran into Drew.
He was like, hey, that's Danielle's car? And I was like, yeah. He was like, damn, she doing it like that? I was like, what you mean, man? Well, I mean, what's up?
Justin was always concerned about Drew with Danielle because he felt that he was too flirty, or he felt that he had a crush on Danielle.
I said, man, what you talking about, man? So he got in the car with his little homeboy and they left.
Detectives in Jacksonville, Florida are speaking to Justin McMillan, the ex-boyfriend of 26-year-old murder victim Danielle Stubbs.
So is there anything that you know, maybe someone has been upset with her, or people she's been hanging out with or anything?
Justin said on the night that Danielle went missing, she had been out with some co-workers, including a co-worker by the name of Drew Elder.
And Justin has nothing good to say about Drew.
Justin told detectives that he was a little bit too flirty when it came to Danielle. He didn't trust him.
It sounded like a classic love triangle.
Detectives are eager to hear what else Justin has to say, but know they need to continue the conversation in person.
You know, it's a shame I can't go into, great details over the phone. I don't know how far in Georgia are you, but how long would it take you to get to Jacksonville?
2 hours.
2 hours, okay. Would you mind meeting me somewhere? Maybe I can show you a couple of things and I can be done with you and I can move on?
Yeah.
Detectives asked Justin if he would come in to the station, and he said absolutely.
As detectives wait for Justin to arrive, they turn their attention to Danielle's co-worker and alleged admirer, Drew Elder.
If Drew really wanted Danielle, it's no telling how far he would go, especially if she refused his advances.
It doesn't take long for detectives to track down Drew and bring him in for questioning.
He seemed shocked to learn that Danielle was found deceased.
I just saw her the other night. I can't believe she's gone.
They asked Drew, did he and Danielle ever have a romantic relationship?
He admitted that he was attracted to her, and when Danielle told him that her and Justin had broken up, he became excited.
Broken up. I was happy about that because it meant I had a chance with her. Sure.
Detectives ask Drew to give them a timeline of his night with Danielle.
Drew says they met up at their co-worker's house at 9 p.m. and he drove all three of them to the club and they just had a good old time and danced the night away.
The three ended up staying out super late until the clubs basically closed.
He decided he would take her home to make sure she got home safe.
Thank you for the ride home.
Of course.
He did get the feeling that she was into him, and maybe their friendship would become something more.
We got there around 3:30. She got out and went inside. And that's it.
You never went inside her place?
No.
Drew was adamant that he just stayed inside the car.
Drew swears to police that he thought she was the most beautiful and amazing person. He swears he didn't kill her.
Did you see anyone else around when you dropped her off?
Well, there was a brown Cadillac parked outside.
Police asked him, could he tell if there was anyone inside? But he said he couldn't because the tent was too dark on the car.
If Drew wasn't responsible for what happened to Danielle, could the owner of the brown Cadillac be involved somehow?
At this point, Drew was still one of their prime suspects, and they weren't even sure if he was telling the truth.
But when detectives dig deeper into their new lead, they make a chilling discovery.
They find that Justin McMillan has a brown Cadillac registered under his name.
When detectives spoke with Justin, he said he was already in Georgia at the time. So who was telling the truth? Drew or Justin?
Investigators hope surveillance footage can give them the answers they need.
Detectives go to all of the gas stations located near Danielle's home to collect whatever surveillance video they could find.
If they caught Justin's brown Cadillac on camera at one of the local gas stations early that morning, it's likely that Drew was telling the truth.
And detectives are in luck.
Wait. Pause it right there.
They found just what they were looking for.
Detectives see Justin's Cadillac pull into a gas station.
They see video footage of the man get out of the brown Cadillac that matches the description of Justin McMillan.
The time signature on the tape showed him pulling the car in at 4 a.m.
2 hours after he said that he had left town.
They realize that he has lied to them. Now, the investigators are anxious to hear how he intends to explain this 2-hour difference.
But even though Justin was supposed to arrive in Jacksonville hours ago, detectives are still left waiting.
Justin told detectives that day that he would meet with them once he drove back to Florida. So detectives called Justin to see where he was.
I'm getting ready to head back in a few minutes now.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't have nothing to run from. I don't have nothing to hide from.
Hey, no one's saying that, Justin. We're just trying to figure out what's going on, and if you can help me, that'd be great.
However, by the next day, Justin still hasn't shown up.
Detectives sit and wait, and time just continues to go by. They call, they get no answer.
He never came.
Since it appears Justin is evading them, their only option is to bring him in by force.
He can run, but he can't hide. But in order to track Justin down, they incorporate the help of the U.S. Marshals to do a manhunt search.
Once U.S. Marshals are on the case, they quickly zero in on their target.
On the afternoon of January 14th, 2009, the police locate Justin at a house in Jacksonville. They did surveillance and found that he was leaving the home, driving the brown Cadillac.
Marshals pulled behind him and turned their emergency lights on in an effort to pull him over.
He pulled over, seeming to comply, but opened his door and launched off in a full run.
The marshals engage in a foot chase, yelling at him, telling him to stop. Justin refuses to give up.
But the situation takes a violent spin as Justin resists arrest.
Justin turned to the police officer and shot in the direction of the patrol car. The U.S. Marshals returned fire.
He figured
9. Authorities in Jacksonville, Florida are attempting to apprehend the man they suspect murdered Danielle Stubbs, her ex-boyfriend, Justin McMillan. But the Air Force veteran isn't going down without a fight.
He doesn't want to be caught. He's going down in a blaze.
He shot at the police officers.
Fortunately, none of the marshals were hit by Justin's gun. However, Justin had suffered several gunshot wounds.
Hey, we're gonna need medical out here ASAP.
Justin was hit 6 times, and that's when he was apprehended.
Although Jacksonville detectives are relieved to finally have Justin in custody, his injuries will definitely complicate their investigative process.
Justin is rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Detectives don't know whether or not he'll survive this incident.
If Justin dies, then the truth behind Danielle's murder could be a mystery forever.
Doctors do everything they can to keep Justin alive.
He underwent several surgeries. He was also put into a medically induced coma.
Meanwhile, investigators compare the bullets collected from the shootout to the ones found in Danielle's bedroom.
The casings that were found in Danielle Stubbs' apartment came from a .45 caliber handgun, the same type of gun that was collected at the shootout with the U.S. Marshals.
With all of this evidence pointing towards Justin, what detectives want now is a confession.
And 2 weeks later, they'll get their chance when Justin awakens from his coma.
On January 29th, Detectives from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office met Justin in his hospital room.
Justin. Hey man, how you feeling? Doing better? Okay. When we talked on the phone, you remember talking to me? Yeah. I want to go back over a little bit of that with you.
But when prodded by detectives, Justin stands by his original story and claims the last time he spoke to Danielle was around 10 p.m. on the 10th.
Looks like she went on some finished work.
Were you mad that she was gone? No.
He said he hung out with his family in Jacksonville that night, waiting for Danielle to call after she left the club, but she never did.
I stayed up until about 2. Went to the gas station. Put some gas in my car. I went towards it.
However, the surveillance video shows otherwise, that he was still in town at 4 a.m.
Detectives let Justin know that they know he's lying about getting on the road at 2 a.m.
You know that little gas station right around the corner from her house? You're on video in there. You went inside. Your car's actually out in the parking lot. But this is at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Realizing he's caught in a lie, Justin admits he was outside Danielle's home when Drew Elder dropped her off at 3:30 a.m.
He said he still loved her and wanted to say goodbye before he left to go back to Georgia.
You wasn't mad? There's nothing wrong with being angry. That's just it's a human emotion.
No. Okay, what happens from there?
Inside. Actually, she had fun.
He said she seemed to be very happy to see him. They went upstairs.
Did you already have the gun in the house at that time?
Who's upstairs with me?
I'm gonna miss you when I have to move back to Georgia. I'm not ready to say goodbye.
I know.
Justin said he laid down to go to sleep with Danielle, and the next thing he knew, he blacked out.
It was fun. Everything was bright. Everything was quiet.
And Justin says when he came to, he was horrified by what he saw. After his violent shootout with police, Jacksonville detectives are finally speaking with murder suspect Justin McMillan.
They shot him 6 times and his ass still didn't die.
Justin now claims he woke up on the morning of January 11th to find Danielle dead.
Did you try to wake her up or move her or help her? Justin, look at me. Did you panic? Yes?
Yes.
And you leave? And you don't dial 911? You don't call family?
What is that? I really don't.
Saying you blanked out ain't gonna cut it. You a healthy man. The military.
Detectives are tired of hearing the lie, so they let him know that they know that he's not telling the truth, and they have evidence to prove it.
Detectives tell Justin that they sent the bullets from his shootout with U.S. Marshals to be tested against the bullets found in Danielle's bedroom.
What do you think the results were? It was a match. Yeah. Now you're in a tight situation right now, okay?
At this point, Justin is beginning to realize that the walls are closing in.
We know the rest of the answers. Okay, we know the where and the who and the what and the how, but why? What happened in there that was so bad that you had to shoot her? Was it her being dropped off by the guy? I mean, honestly. Huh? Is that what it was?
Justin can't take the pressure any longer.
He now admitted to being angry when he saw Danielle's co-worker, Drew Elder, drop her off.
Justin claimed to police at that time that he was angry that she had been out with another man.
He waited till she went inside, and that's when he went in behind her.
Like, you think you could just sit there and disrespect me like that?
We aren't together anymore, Justin. I can do whatever I want.
What?
They had a fight. I'm sure they had a fight. Danielle was a fighter.
Huh? Thought about him? And you lost him? What happened? What happened? Shot.
He was like, ain't nobody gonna have you if I can't have you. That's how he thought in his head.
And then what? Shot her again?
That's when Justin admits he fired the fatal shot into her head.
She was shot twice, so he meant to kill her. He literally meant to kill her.
Once Danielle was dead, he just walked out. He went to a nearby gas station to fill up his car and then left for Georgia.
I wish none was would have happened. I deserve to be punished.
Yeah, probably so.
Detectives tell him that he's going to be charged with the murder of Danielle Stubbs, as well as attempted murder of U.S. Marshals.
Word of Justin's arrest spreads like wildfire.
Once he went to jail, they caught him and everything. We saw it on the news, and people were calling. I mean, it was a big time. It was a big thing in Jacksonville.
It was a sigh of relief, but at the same time, I knew it wasn't gonna bring my friend back.
With Justin McMillan's confession now on record, investigators are hoping for an easy conviction. But as the trial looms closer, they get an unexpected call from the Duval County Jail.
While awaiting trial, Justin asked to speak with members of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
Detectives sit down with Justin again, this time in an interrogation room.
I ain't seen you since you was at the hospital. You're looking a lot better, like I said, man. You putting on some weight. Look like you're healing up, okay?
He told detectives, what I have to say, you're not gonna believe.
It's pertaining to that night.
My baby is gone. My oldest daughter, the one that looks just like me, she is gone. It took me a long time to even look in the mirror because she looks so much like me, you know? I wouldn't wish this on any mother. I miss all the things that we talked about, that we planned, the shopping and the doing hair and laughing and talking. I thought that I wasn't gonna feel her again. But after she passed, the Robins would come to my door every single day. That's how she spoke to me after she died. I would look and I said, that's Danielle, letting me know she's okay.
Finally obtained a confession from Justin McMillan for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Danielle Stubbs. But while in jail awaiting trial, Justin makes a shocking announcement.
Justin suddenly decides he wants to recant his story.
I didn't pull the truth.
Police asked Justin, well, why did you confess to it then at the hospital? And he acts confused.
Justin says that he was on so many painkillers that he doesn't even remember talking to the detectives.
You know?
He's claiming that during the hospital stay, he was on too much medication to give a statement.
Damn, so many drugs. Well, they really didn't. They really didn't. I'm not going to dispute that with you. I mean, we get the hospital records.
In fact, the hospital record showed he'd only been on Motrin at the time that he gave his initial statement to the police.
So if you're not the one that shot her, then who's the one that did? Who would be responsible for it? I don't know.
Justin explains that when he went to Danielle's home on January 10th, he was just stopping by on his way to Georgia to pick something up he'd left there, his pistol.
I have my pistol upstairs. I hope ain't nobody in here. Mm-hmm. So I go upstairs and I say, Danielle. Oh, you know.
Danielle.
He says that's when he saw her deceased.
My pistol was laying on the bed because I left my pistol there.
Justin tells investigators at that point he just panicked.
But she wasn't moving. I was like, Danielle. She didn't respond, so I was like, oh, hell no. Okay. I grabbed my phone and I I left. I mean, at the time, I knew nobody wasn't gonna believe that. And I know now ain't nobody really gonna believe it.
Justin was essentially claiming that someone else killed Danielle with his gun, framing him for the crime. It's just ridiculous.
Did it ever cross your mind to call for some help? Because that's going to be the obvious question.
It crossed my mind 1,000 times. Ain't nobody gonna believe I didn't pull the trigger because I got the weapon. It's my weapon. You see what I'm saying?
He swears that he is telling the truth.
But detectives aren't buying it.
This is the third story that Justin had given police now, and they had just run out of patience for him.
Detectives tell him at this point it's going to be up to a judge and jury.
In June of 2010, Justin gets his chance to plead his case in court.
Justin McMillan goes on trial for the murder of Danielle Stubbs and the attempted murder of U.S. Marshals. He knows that he's facing the death penalty.
The trial, I didn't want to look at that man. I didn't want to see him, but I looked at him. And I said, it looked like a demon. That's what I said, it looked like a demon.
His defense team realized with the ballistic evidence against him, as well as his original confession at the hospital, they would never be able to convince a jury that he did not shoot Danielle.
So instead, they attempt to at least save him from the death penalty.
During the trial, the defendant did make the decision to testify. He admitted again to shooting Danielle. But the defense had a theory of the case that this defendant at the time was just suffering from what we would call a depraved mind.
Justin's defense team argues that since he shot at Danielle in the heat of passion, that he shouldn't get the death penalty and that he should get second-degree murder.
However, the prosecution is ready with a rebuttal.
What the state argued was that it was the defendant who shot Danielle, first shooting her in the right arm, an injury that she would have likely survived, and then he made the decision to shoot her in the head.
After just 6 hours of deliberation, the jury comes to a decision: guilty on all charges.
He's convicted of first-degree murder and given the death penalty as a result.
But just 2 months into his sentence, Justin still isn't willing to accept punishment for what he's done.
Justin attempts to escape prison.
And while Justin's attempt at escaping prison is unsuccessful, he is able to escape the death penalty.
The death penalty law did later change in the state of Florida, and at this time, Justin McMillan is serving life in prison without the possibility of parole.
For those that loved and cherished Danielle, Justin's conviction and subsequent sentencing offers little solace.
It was a relief with the guilty verdict. But at the same time, though, my daughter is gone. He should have never been off death row. He should have been on that 10-by-10 cell with that black and white TV and reading one book a day. He shouldn't have access to anything because we don't have access to anything but a grave.
She was taken from us, and for what, because he was upset. You shouldn't be killing people just because your feelings are hurt. Like, that's weak.
He stripped her from her story. She's not gonna get married. She's not gonna have kids. It was just a blessing to know her. The short amount of time.
Being with the one you love can put a smile on your face and a bounce in your step.
You see couples walking hand in hand and instantly know whether they're in love.
It's a sensation that's almost impossible to describe. It's like a drug.
What is it that draws two people together?
She's a young girl that I think was impressionable.
But sometimes that love can fade, and so can the cheerful disposition.
A beautiful young woman falls victim to what appears to be an accidental fire.
Fire personnel pulled her out and tried to bring her back to life through CPR.
It just was a terrible sight. There was a lot of people crying.
But when the smoke clears, things aren't what they seem.
Red flags were popping all over the place.
A real shock. I just couldn't believe it.
Detectives face one blazing revelation after another.
She was stabbed and shot.
The writings on the wall appeared to have been written by a scorned lover.
It was something off a horror movie. This case was one of the more outlandish ones that I've worked.
I just can't believe someone could be that obsessed over someone.
This truly is a fatal attraction.
It's December 31st, 2008 in Henrico County, Virginia.
Henrico County is the northern suburb of Richmond. Very safe.
All is quiet in the early morning hours on what's normally a day of celebration.
Everyone's getting ready to celebrate and ring in the new year.
But one family is about to suffer a heart-rending tragedy.
The call came in about 6:40 in the morning from Henrico County.
Neighbors report smoke and fire coming from some apartments on Crenshaw Road.
My neighbors, I live right there. My neighbor's house is on fire.
The fire personnel started investigating where the smoke was coming from and located that it was coming from the next door neighbor apartment.
They get no response at the door.
The door is locked.
With the door open, the firemen make their way through the two-story apartment.
Their two priorities were to find and extinguish any blaze and rescue anyone who might be inside.
One team moves upstairs, where they discover flames in a second-floor bedroom. Another team sweeps through the ground level.
They see evidence that a child lives there, and this raises the stakes for everyone.
Near the back door, they make a horrifying discovery.
There's a body.
They found a woman lying on the first floor, and she was unconscious.
They pulled her out of the apartment and tried CPR.
Neighbors identified her as 26-year-old Kiana Braxton. She lived in the apartment complex with her boyfriend and his daughter.
Thankfully, no one else was inside.
She was pronounced dead shortly thereafter.
What had sparked this blaze? Was it a terrible accident or something far more sinister?
There was a lot of talking going around. Everybody just was upset and just tore up.
Sifting through the ashes of this tragedy will consume a family for 5 long years and lead them to wonder whether justice will ever be served. Kiana Braxton was born on July 3rd, 1982 in Richmond, Virginia, the youngest of 4 children in a loving family.
She had one brother and 2 sisters. She was the baby.
Her family very much described her as loving, caring, infectious personality, devoted to her family and friends.
During high school, Kiana blossomed into a vivacious young woman.
She was maybe like 5'3". She was very curvy, full lips, dark brown hair, dark brown eyes. She was beautiful.
A lot of guys really liked her. She was a looker.
But Kiana never allowed herself to go boy crazy and always kept her eye on the future.
Back in our younger days, and it was different, guys, tried to talk to her, but she was always brushing them away.
She was working at a restaurant when she got out of school. After that, she was working at a uniform cleaning company.
When Kiana finally dipped her toes into the dating world, she chose men as responsible and hardworking as she was.
They were nice guys and had good jobs.
But none of them really seemed like the right fit. Kiana was waiting for just the right guy.
Don't worry about it, man. We can get it taken care of for you.
Then, in 2004, Kiana finally met her Prince Charming.
Hey, what's up?
He was a handsome 27-year-old co-worker named Kenneth Lee.
He worked for the same cleaning company that Kiana worked for.
He's a delivery driver and picks up clothing and things that need to be cleaned.
He had his own job, he had his own place. He was smooth, and I guess that's what attracted her. When you can go out to eat with me?
You know what? I can go out to eat with you.
For real?
Yeah.
They went out one night, and it just went off from there.
Work was crazy.
The passion was great, but what really made her fall hard for him was seeing what a great father he was.
Hey!
Ever since a split with his ex months prior, Kenny shared custody of their 3-year-old little girl, Brianna.
Kenny would get his daughter on his designated weekend.
B is for balloon, that first man unlocked.
You like balloons?
To Kiana, Kenny was the total package.
She stopped falling in love with him.
Not only did she love Kenny, she adored his daughter.
And then you got Angie. For helicopter.
Yeah. Oh my God.
In 2006, the couple took the leap and decided to move in together.
Their apartment was very nice. Kiana and Kenny, they were living good.
They were most happy on the weekends when little Brianna was with them.
Let's go. Got a surprise for you. You ready? Look, it's your own princess room. You're welcome. You like it? Oh, great. Let's go over there and play with your toys. You like it?
I love it. Thanks, babe.
She actually had her own room at Kiana's house that Kiana decorated and bought her toys and put everything in.
But as Kiana and Kenny stoked the fires of their romance, a blaze on a cold morning has changed their lives forever.
They pulled her out, began CPR. Unfortunately, she was already dead at the scene.
And when the smoke finally clears, gruesome evidence will reveal that someone in quiet suburban Henrico County wanted Kiana dead at any cost.
It was something off a horror movie. This wasn't just a murder. It was like, overkill.
In the Richmond, Virginia suburb of Henrico County, firefighters discovered
Abi yok. Duramıyorum ya. Mesut abi. FPS duramıyorum oyunda. Sıkıntı orada. Yana geldi mi kardan? Yok kardan aldım. Ben aldım. Belki bir şey vardır. Belki.
When I got over there, it was a whole big scene.
Everything was all taped off, and they didn't allow no one, to the house.
Can you imagine seeing your loved one's home on fire, not even being able to get close, or knowing what had happened?
I need to know what's going on.
After what seems like an eternity, an officer finally approaches them.
She came up there and she said, "Where's the mother?" And everybody pointed to me, and she just told me they did found a young black girl in there, and she was dead.
No, you could just take a minute,
I just broke down. I couldn't believe my daughter was dead.
When I overheard it, I cried. I cried and I cried.
While loved ones try to comfort each other, lead detective Charles Hanna arrives on the scene.
I got there and I spoke to the first arriving officers and the fire personnel.
From what we could tell, this does not look like an accident.
A closer look at Kiana's body also suggests foul play.
She was already covered with a blanket, but when we looked at her body, there were defensive wounds on her hands, cuts on her fingers, as well as actual stab wounds in her chest and belly area.
What was initially thought to be death of this woman as a result of a fire quickly turned into a homicide investigation. To try to understand what happened, Detective Hannah consults with the lead fire investigator and begins a walkthrough of the home.
So what we have here? There was blood splatter speared behind the wall here, door. There was blood on the walls, blood up the stair. It wasn't just blood droplets, it was smears where people looked like they had been struggling in the blood.
So where did the fire start at? We're not sure, but it seems like it started two separate areas of the apartment. One upstairs and downstairs. I can show you the rest if you follow me.
The first place was on the couch just in the living room, and there was actually a type of accelerant that comes in a bottle that was found right next to the couch. The second place was in the master bedroom. The bed where the fire was started only had the actual wire frames left because of the fire and the heat damage.
However, investigators also discover that young Brianna's bedroom survived the fire completely unscathed.
There was no damage to the bedroom.
So the place where the couple sleeps is torched, and the kids' room wasn't touched. Kind of makes you wonder if there was a message there. But it's back downstairs in the kitchen where the fire investigator shows Detective Hannah the most curious piece of evidence yet.
He explained to me that the gas was still turned on and the knobs for the gas stove had been taken off.
According to the fire investigator, the knobs had been tossed inside the oven, along with several highly flammable aerosol cans. All this leads investigators to a scary conclusion.
Somebody was trying to cover up what they had done by starting the fire to the apartment. They were probably hoping that the fire would engulf the whole apartment and cover up the crime for at least a good amount of time.
On the kitchen floor, investigators point out another clue.
They actually had found a single .380 shell casing in the kitchen area of the apartment. We know that semi-automatic handguns eject the shell casing once they're fired. So now we're looking for a semi-automatic handgun that's possibly involved in this crime as well.
But who could have committed such a brutal crime, and why? So a lot of questions come to mind for detectives as they're working on this investigation. Could this have been a botched robbery? That theory, however, is quickly put to rest.
So were there any signs of forced entry? No, there wasn't. There was no evidence of break-in anywhere.
Her purse is still there. The TV and other electronics are still in place.
That suggested that the killer was more likely someone who knew the victim and or had access to the apartment.
Most of the time, when we do a murder investigation, the first person that you want to look at is the boyfriend, a family member, somebody that's close.
From family and neighbors, investigators learn about Kiana's boyfriend of 3 years, Kenneth Lee.
Does anyone else live here?
Her boyfriend, Kenny. One of the bigger questions detectives want to know, where was Kenneth Lee when this unfortunate murder took place? He wasn't home. It was early morning, New Year's Eve.
We called over to his employer at the time and found out that he was actually out of town. That raised flags in our mind. Of course, it's either very convenient or it's something that's planned.
When Kenny gets back into town that afternoon, detectives speak with him at the station.
He had arrived knowing that we had found Kiana Braxton dead in the apartment.
Sorry about your loss, guy. We are here to ask you a few questions.
Understand? A lot of times, we don't know somebody's involved until we actually sit across from them and talk to them, see how their body reacts, how they answer questions. We're looking to see if we could catch him in some sort of lie.
What detectives don't know is that Kenny Lee will reveal a tragic detail that will cast this case in an entirely new light.
Murder is an unthinkable crime. It destroys people's families, but this just adds it to another level of severity. That is one of those things that does get to me.
It's been 6 hours since 26-year-old Kiana Braxton was discovered dead inside her burned apartment. They did find multiple stab wounds on her body, so this turned from death by arson to a homicide really quickly. Kiana's family obviously was distraught. I mean, no one wants to lose a loved one, and in such a gruesome way.
I just couldn't hold up. I couldn't talk to nobody because I I just was in a real shock. I couldn't believe my daughter was gone like that. I just couldn't believe it.
At a time that should have been used for coming together and celebrate the holidays with your family, they're preparing a funeral. At Henrico County Police Department, homicide detectives are interrogating Kiana's boyfriend, Kenny Lee.
Whenever there's a murder-homicide, the first person we look at either is a boyfriend or a husband or somebody that they have been intimate with. The first person we're thinking about is Kenneth Lee may have done this.
But during his interrogation, Kenneth Lee displays no overtly suspicious behavior.
He seems overwhelmed by grief at the death of his woman.
You could tell he was still in shock. He looked down when we spoke to him. He was holding back tears. He looked like a defeated person.
Do you own any weapons, Kenny? Yeah. The 380 I keep under my mattress.
Well, that matches the shell casing found in the kitchen, but no gun was found anywhere in the home.
Detectives ask Kenny where he was at the time of the crime. He gives them an alibi that seems to check out.
I told y'all already. I was out of town. Check my phone, do whatever y'all need to do. Wasn't there?
The police department did verify that he was on a work-related job in another state.
Yeah, he's not involved in this. He showed all the signs of somebody that had just found out that their loved one had been killed.
But near the end of his interview, Kenny Lee does reveal a shocking truth that renders the murder of Kiana Braxton heartbreaking.
It's Brittany.
She was about 3 months along, so she really hadn't told too many people about the pregnancy. But Kenny said her mother knew.
She was very happy when she found out, and I was happy for her, because she wanted a baby. She came and showed me the ultrasound picture. I saw the little baby balled up in her stomach. It was just so sweet.
They had Kenny's little girl, and now they were going to have one of their own.
We knew Kiana loved kids. She was going to be one of the perfect moms. And, it didn't happen that way.
Not only was it tragic for Kiana to lose her life in such a brutal and gruesome way, she also lost her child.
Miss Braxton being pregnant, yes, it adds to the severity of the crime.
Detective Hannah.
The autopsy results further compound the tragedy, detailing a crime even more vicious than detectives initially suspected.
Kiana was stabbed 48 times.
I could never think of no one that would do something so brutal.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Many of Kiana's stab wounds were concentrated in her abdomen, suggesting the killer was targeting Kiana's unborn child as much as Kiana herself. But the autopsy reveals that stabbing wasn't the primary cause of death.
Once the medical examiner did their autopsy, found out that Kiana Braxton had a gunshot wound to the belly.
It's like the killer targeted her in the belly for that very reason.
The ballistics report on the slug taken from Kiana's body confirms it's a .380 caliber round.
Detectives are thinking that whoever shot her knew where that gun was under the mattress, used it, and took it with them.
But who did it? Henrico detectives are about to learn something startling from Kiana's family.
This wasn't the first time Kiana and Kenny's apartment had been trashed.
The summer of 2008, which would have just been a few months before Kiana was actually killed, someone had gotten into the home, they damaged the property, couches, clothes, and the most interesting piece of this was some writings that were on the wall. But the most salacious detail is yet to come. One that will reveal a twisted love triangle and lead detectives down a new path in their search for the killer who destroyed Kiana and Kenny's seemingly charmed life. Love drives people to do unthinkable things. You never know when there really is going to be some type of fatal attraction. 9 hours into investigating the murder of expectant mom Kiana Braxton, Henrico County detectives learned something startling from her family. The recent arson wasn't the first time someone targeted Kiana and Kenny's apartment. Someone had broken into the home a few months before Kiana was actually killed. Investigators check the incident report and discover a telling detail. The most interesting piece of this was some writings that were on the wall. And they alluded to a tattoo that Kiana had that was located in a place on her body that only a lover or someone intimate would have known where it was. Had this prior incident of highly personalized vandalism been the work of one of Kiana's scorned lovers? And if so, might he now be responsible for her murder?
Well, the family swears that Kiana got along with all of her ex-boyfriends. There weren't very many of them, and they all still got along.
And although no one could ever prove it, everyone in Kiana's inner circle believed they knew who trashed the apartment and wrote the graffiti. Her name? Kayla Armstrong.
Kayla Armstrong is the ex-lover of Kenneth Lee, and she's also the mother of his child.
The family suspected Kayla wrote the graffiti on the wall to make it seem like Kiana was having an affair on Kenny. But nobody had any proof that she did it.
Even if Kayla Armstrong was responsible for the vandalism, that's a far cry from committing murder. And Kayla's background certainly doesn't sound like that of a murderer, at least on the surface.
She's a college student, Virginia State University. She aspired to be a preacher, so, she's got goals for herself, she has ambition, she's really holding things down in her life.
She was a very bright, smart young lady.
What's up, babe?
Hey, honey. How you doing?
Kayla Armstrong and Kenneth Lee had an on-again, off-again relationship, which started in high school.
All right, well, I'm about to head to the store. You need anything?
Diapers.
Diapers?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
After a few years of dating, they had their baby, Brianna.
Kayla probably thought that when they did have the baby, that, okay, well, we have a baby together, so now we're just together forever. And that wasn't the case.
In 2005, the couple broke up for good, and Kenny met and fell in love with Kiana. And although Kenny and Kiana were inseparable, it seems Kayla was unwilling to admit that her relationship with Kenny was truly over.
This was her first love.
She was still very attached to Kenneth.
And when Kenny and Kiana got together, she just was jealous, mad.
Police learned that instead of directing her rage at her ex, Kayla targeted his new girlfriend.
Kayla Armstrong and Kiana Braxton had been in multiple fights.
What are you doing here?
Freak.
Why
You
is this
need
about
to
my
leave
daughter's
your
house?
house.
You love me. Why is this about my daughter's house?
According to Kiana's family, Kayla soon escalated these verbal confrontations into full-blown vandalism.
She's got her tires slashed. Everyone knew
Kayla did this, but you still couldn't prove it.
Then, in May of 2006, Kayla allegedly took the altercations to an even more dangerous level.
Kiana Braxton and Kayla Armstrong got into an argument outside of the apartment.
Where's Kenny?
What is wrong
Where's
with you?
my man?
Just like all the other fights that Kiana Braxton and Kayla Armstrong had been involved in, it was basically over Kenneth Lee. Kayla Armstrong produced a knife.
She took some swings at Kiana and cut her. Nothing life-threatening, but still.
Including one wound to the head where Kiana Braxton had to get stitches to close the wound.
A few months later, Kayla Armstrong was found guilty of assault for the attack on Kiana.
She served 9 months. At that time, Kiana filed a protective order against Kayla.
To detectives, Kayla's unbridled jealousy gives her an obvious motive for murder.
This likely was a love triangle. Kayla was very much in love with Kenneth, who was the father of her child. Kenneth was in love with Kiana, who he was in a new relationship with.
And if Kayla found out Kiana was pregnant, it could have sent her over the edge.
So is there any way that Kayla would have known that Kiana was pregnant?
I don't know.
We don't know.
Although they are unsure if Kayla is aware that Kiana and Kenny were having a baby, they informed detectives of a more recent and more disturbing incident involving Kenny's volatile ex-girlfriend.
4 days before the murder, Kayla and her mom went to Kenny and Kiana's house to pick up Brianna.
Hey, how are you?
As the story goes, while Kayla waited downstairs, Kenny escorted Kayla's mother to Brianna's room to get her things. That's when all hell broke loose.
Stay with her real quick.
Suddenly, Kiana and Kayla were going at it downstairs.
Chill. Hey, you need to leave. You need to get out.
No.
Get out.
Kenneth separated them.
Go.
Pushed Kayla Armstrong outside of the apartment and was dealing with Kiana Braxton.
this fight was ever reported, detectives dig into police records.
It turns out after the incident, Kiana had actually filed a new order of protection against Kayla. But the protective order wasn't even served until 4 days after Kiana had already been murdered.
Given the timing of the violent dispute, detectives don't believe it's a coincidence.
We decided that we needed to speak to her.
Unable to find Kayla at her mother's house, detectives try to track her cell phone.
We have Kayla Armstrong's phone number. So we are trying to locate where she is. We subpoena the phone company for her phone records. We're trying to find out the cell towers where the phone was being used. At some point during the day, her phone is turned off. And we have no idea where she is after that.
Although it looks like detectives may have a new suspect in their crosshairs, their case is about to go up in flames.
It was just like mind-blowing what was found out about the situation.
December 31st, 2008. Less than 24 hours into investigating the murder of Kiana Braxton, Henrico County detectives have discovered that Kiana was embroiled in a dangerous love triangle.
Keona's boyfriend Kenny had an ex named Kayla Armstrong, who was also the mother of his daughter.
Everyone said that Kayla just couldn't let go of Kenny. She took her frustration out on Kiana, just constantly messing with her. Through all these incidents over the years, there was one common denominator, and that person was Kayla Armstrong.
At 6 p.m., as law enforcement fans out across Greater Richmond in search of Kayla Armstrong, police dispatchers receive an unexpected call from a storage facility located on the east side of town.
Somebody from the business had called saying that there was a wanted person there. We learned that she had a storage unit at this minute storage office.
Officers locate Kayla at the storage facility and they bring her down to the station for questioning.
Myself and my partner were there to interview her.
Kayla, do you mind if we ask you a few questions about Kiana Braxton and Kenny?
Okay.
We told her that Miss Braxton was found murdered inside an apartment that was burned.
What? What happened?
Kayla's response to detectives is telling.
Her reaction was that of a person who was trying to act like they were upset. You could tell she really wasn't upset. She gave us what she thought we wanted.
Detectives ask Kayla if she has an alibi for the morning of the murder.
I was at home with my daughter.
So were you ever jealous of Kiana and Kenny's relationship?
Why would I be jealous? I was still seeing Kenny on the side. If Kayla was telling the truth, the detectives had to wonder if Kenny had been lying the whole time. Did he not want this baby?
Was he still in love with Kayla? Could he have somehow used Kayla to help him get rid of his girlfriend?
Did you know Kiana was pregnant?
I knew I was right. Not only was Kayla's blurt a little bizarre sounding, but it suggested that no one had told her that Kiana was pregnant, especially not Kenny.
If Kenny wasn't sharing intimate details about his life with Kayla, it seems highly unlikely that he would trust her enough to collude with her in murder.
It now looks like Kayla was indeed convinced that Kiana was pregnant, which would give her a compelling motive to get rid of her rival.
The following morning, detectives approach prosecutors with everything they have against their suspect.
Police not only give them what they have on Kayla for the murder of Kiana Braxton, but also what they have on her for the assault and vandalism that occurred just days before.
But the prosecutor's office has serious concerns about the evidence they've been presented with.
Everything was circumstantial.
We didn't get any DNA from the scene. There were no fingerprints from the scene. Kayla had no defensive wounds about her.
The previous attacks on Kiana, the fact that Kayla's daughter's room was the only room in the house that was untouched, the fact that Kayla didn't have a strong alibi for where she was the morning of the murder. All circumstantial, nothing direct.
Ultimately, prosecutors refuse to press murder charges. Instead, they agree to hold Kayla for the assault and vandalism that occurred days before Kiana's killing.
He explained charging her with assault and the vandalism, which will give you more time to work on the case and see if you can uncover some evidence other than circumstantial evidence that places Kayla Armstrong at the apartment the morning of the murder.
For Kiana's family, Kayla's arrest is bittersweet.
I was happy Kayla was arrested for the assault that she did on the 27th of December. But I still wasn't happy it wasn't actually murder, which she was arrested for.
3 months later, in March of 2009, Kayla Armstrong stands trial on the assault and vandalism charges.
The judge listened to all the evidence.
There was one big problem. No one had seen their fight actually start.
Kenneth Lee was upstairs and heard the fight and came downstairs, so he couldn't say exactly where the fight started. The neighbors also said that they didn't know where the fight started.
So the judge said it was impossible to say if Kayla was the aggressor or if she was just defending herself.
The judge said that without witnesses, then he didn't feel comfortable with convicting Kayla Armstrong. He dismissed the charges.
Kiana's loved ones are devastated.
I just cried. I just couldn't get myself together because I said, why would they let her go?
Is it possible detectives had been wrong all along about Kayla?
Kayla's defenders were saying that the fight with Kiana before her death was greatly exaggerated.
As for the murder, Kayla's supporters believe she's innocent of that as well.
A lot of her friends believe that Kayla's not that type of person. Like, why would she do something like that?
Investigators are hesitant to give up on the case. However, without any additional evidence, they have no choice but to table their investigation. For 3 years, the case grows cold. But in 2011, a shakeup in the prosecutor's office breathes new life into the search for Kiana's killer.
So, what do we have here?
We received a new Commonwealth attorney. She sat down with our whole homicide unit. She asked us, were there any cases that you all feel with a little bit of work that we can prosecute? And I explained to her, well, Kiana Braxton's homicide. And she said that she would like to sit down and talk over the evidence.
I think we have enough evidence pointing to Kayla.
I would say we have a case here.
That October, Kayla Armstrong is indicted by a grand jury for 1 count of first-degree murder. But for the victim's family, the charges fall hopelessly short.
Since Kiana had been pregnant, they thought Kayla should be prosecuted for 2 murders.
I was kind of upset with the law because they said they couldn't charge her with the baby. You had to be 4 months. And I said, but the baby was still moving around. The baby had a heartbeat. And that baby could have, been born.
Detectives quickly move in to arrest. After that, the accused killer is nowhere to be found. Has someone tipped her off to the new charges against her?
Kayla Armstrong wasn't returning home. Her daughter was staying with her mother. It seemed to me that she was on the run.
The story is just going to get more dramatic. Soon a murder-for-hire plot will surface and shock everyone connected to the case.
My mom called me and told me, you're not gonna believe this.
Three full years after the terrible murder of mother-to-be Kiana Braxton, detectives are finally ready to arrest the woman they believe committed the crime. Kiana's romantic rival, Kayla Armstrong. There's just one big problem.
She fled, just took off. Someone must have told her the police were looking for her, and she's become a fugitive from justice.
We had tried to locate her in so many different ways. Cell phones, bank accounts, you name it. Our resources were depleted.
After painfully waiting all these years for justice, Kiana's family now has to wait even longer.
They said like she was running, and I just said, how they keep letting her get away? She disappeared, and I thought they'll never catch her.
It's Connolly.
In order to hunt down Kayla, local police seek outside help in the form of federal marshals.
The U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force in Richmond got a call from the Henrico County Police Department looking for assistance in apprehending Kayla Armstrong. Just got a call from the Henrico County Police.
The task force throws the full weight of the U.S. government behind the search for Kayla Armstrong.
We routinely run all of her associations, family, friends, and try to determine where she might be.
After 7 days of intense investigation, the marshals learn Kayla might be hiding out in nearby Chesterfield County.
We went out to the single-family residence and conducted a surveillance to look for any movement in the house.
Oh, I got movement in the window. That's her. That's her. She's in there.
Okay. Unit 2, we're moving in.
A pair of armed task force members cover the home's rear exit, while 2 others head for the front door.
U.S. Marshals were looking for Kayla Armstrong. They denied her being in the residence, but we often get lied to at the door. We felt she was in the house.
So you understand the penalties for harboring a fugitive? Sure you don't want to let us in?
I was able to convince them to let us have a consent search of the residence.
One team covers the foyer and sweeps the upstairs, while another checks the basement.
We searched the rec room area, utility room.
Basement's clear.
That's when one of the marshals spots a hallway closet with the door slightly ajar.
I reached into the closet, I felt an arm, and then removed Kayla from the closet.
Got her. Come on out, Kayla.
She became compliant and sort of gave us the "you got me" thing. She was placed under arrest and transported her back to Henrico County.
The arrest is big news.
There was a breaking news bulletin telling everybody that they got her. That was a sense of release. She's gonna be off the streets. We don't have to worry about her not paying for what she's done to my sister.
I was very excited when she was arrested. Thank God, you know, that they got her.
But even behind bars, Kayla Armstrong proves extremely dangerous.
A month before the homicide trial was going to start, we received information from a individual in jail that Miss Armstrong asked her about getting somebody to kill Kenneth Lee.
Investigators begin monitoring and recording her calls. What they hear is stunning. She made more than 250 phone calls to an outside source to hire them to murder Kenneth Lee. And she wanted it done in a way that was so gruesome that he would have to have a closed casket.
I was just shocked. I say, oh my God, she locked up and trying to put the hit out on him.
It's an astonishing turn. This is the guy that she was willing to do anything to keep for herself, and the father of her own child. Now she's all about self-preservation.
Kenneth Lee had a lot of circumstantial evidence that he was going to testify about that would hurt her cause in the homicide trial.
For those closest to the case, Kayla's attempt to silence Kenneth Lee is further proof she's a heartless killer. And on January 25th, 2013, Kayla's legal team acknowledges just how damning those jailhouse phone calls are to their case. They negotiate a deal in which Kayla Armstrong takes a plea bargain for voluntary manslaughter in the death of Kiana Braxton and owns up to trying to have her ex-boyfriend Kenneth Lee murdered. There's not enough concrete evidence to uphold the murder charges, so they're lessened to voluntary manslaughter. And although Kayla denied involvement with the killing, she did take a plea. Although Kayla's plea deal doesn't require her to explain the motive behind the two crimes, prosecutors believe it was jealousy, plain and simple.
My belief is Kayla didn't want to give up Kenneth Lee. It was a good bet that Kenneth Lee would not ever come back to her because Kiana Braxton is pregnant with Kenneth Lee's baby. I think all of those factors pushed Kayla Armstrong into killing Kiana Braxton.
They think she knew that Kenny was out of town when she confronted Kiana.
What are you doing? Kenny's gone now. You need to
They thought
He can't help you now. He can't help you now. Get the hell off me.
she grabbed a knife from the kitchen and stabbed her. Then she went to the bedroom where she knew that Kenny kept a gun and then shot her to make sure she was dead.
She then lit the fire, hoping to destroy all the evidence. She took the knife and gun with her, dumping them somewhere. They will never recover.
Kayla Armstrong got 10 years for the voluntary manslaughter charge and 20 years for the murder for hire plot against Kenneth Lee.
This was a win for the prosecution. It assured 2 convictions and significant prison time for Kayla Armstrong.
But Kiana Braxton's family believes Kayla got off far too easy.
My reaction to Kayla getting 10 years for Kiana's death was unacceptable. Unacceptable. She gets away with everything she does.
It really is an unfortunate case all the way around. Because when you think about it, you have this daughter of Kenneth Lee and Kayla Armstrong, who now will not have her mother as she grows up. And then you have the family of Kiana Braxton, who they've lost their daughter, their sister, their niece, their friend. And they'll never get the chance to see her become a mother to that unborn child.
I really, truly miss my daughter. And my grandbaby would have been here. And I just miss her and the baby.
A mother of 4 vanishes without a trace, leaving loved ones scrambling for answers.
I called the police because I wanted them to know my child is missing.
Had she found love in the wrong place with the wrong man?
I had concerns about her meeting someone online. I was like, he seems to really want to be in love with you.
And then the next day, she disappeared.
As investigators retrace her last steps, they find a trio of potential lovers and a crime scene more gruesome than they ever imagined.
This was a serious amount of blood.
At that point, we knew it was more of a recovery than it was finding a missing person. You just fell in love very easily.
You truly never know who you're dating.
February 9th, 2015. It's a cold, dark morning in Gainesville, Florida, and 17-year-old Xavier Marshall is doing his best to get his younger brother and sister out of bed and ready for school.
Jordan! Janelle, get up! You're gonna be late for school.
Their mother, Keonta, usually gets the younger children ready for school, but neither her nor her live-in boyfriend, Kelvin Bryant, are anywhere to be found. While this is out of the ordinary, Xavier is more focused on getting to school. He has an earlier start time than his siblings, so he's anxious to get out of the door.
As Xavier prepares to leave, he lets Jordan and Janelle know that their grandmother, Irma Dorsey, will be there to take them to school in just a few minutes.
I was like, all right, make sure you get ready because I need to leave for the bus. And my sister was like, what time Mom said she was going to be home? And I was like, she said 5:30, but I guess she running late or something. I don't know.
This was very, very peculiar. Keonta was someone who would normally just leave their home for hours at a time. I don't understand what's going on, but something's wrong.
Don't worry about it. Grandma's right down the street. She'll take care of everything, all right? Love you guys.
Shortly after Xavier heads out to catch the bus, their grandmother arrives.
Get up and go get dressed. Hush. Come on back down when you're done, alrighty?
As the children get dressed, Irma tries to touch base with Keonta.
Hey, baby. This is your mama. Irma's mother's intuition is telling her that something is horribly wrong. Call me back, okay? Call me back. I'm getting worried about you. Just call me back. All right.
Attempts to contact Keonta's boyfriend, Kelvin, only make Irma more concerned.
Calvin was been to work at 6. It was around 7:30, so he should have been on the job. They say he's not been here. He hasn't come to work. Right then, my heart dropped.
Irma reaches out to everyone she can think of for answers, but family and friends for both Keonta and Kelvin are equally troubled by their disappearance.
Hours later, she's still missing. I just broke down crying at work. I was like, something's not right. I gotta go.
I called the police because I wanted them to know my child is missing.
Keonta Catrice Williams was born April 5th, 1975 in Gainesville, Florida. Her mother, Irma, raised her alone until 1985, when Irma welcomed Keonta's baby sister, Cherie, into the world.
Keonta, she was a good sister. She was a really good sister. Very protective.
Did you learn anything new in school today?
No.
Because you already know everything, right?
Right.
In addition to being a doting big sister, Keonta was an excellent student and a hard worker.
Kiana, she believed in working to get what she wanted. And that's what she did.
It was that same drive and work ethic that led Keonta to her first love, a young man named Jim Martin.
She asked me could she get an after-school job. And that's where she ran into him.
She loved him. You know, he swept her off her feet.
Keonta had dreams of joining the Navy after high school, but in 1995, life set her on an unexpected course.
She got pregnant and pretty much shifted her life. You think you're ready for this baby?
I know we're ready for this baby. I want to marry you.
Soon after, Keonta and Jim tied the knot. Keonta gave birth to a beautiful baby boy named Christian, and over the next 9 years, she and Jim had 3 more children.
Keonta adored her children. There wasn't anything she wouldn't do for them.
But while Keonta and Jim appeared happily in love to the outside world, there were problems behind closed doors.
Just got all the kids to sleep. Thought we could watch a movie.
Well, I'm going out.
You going out?
They had the ups and downs, God knows. Because he was in a lot of trouble.
It's 10 o'clock on a Thursday. Where the hell are you going?
Look, I'm going out. Stop asking, right?
I know he loves my sister. It's just, you know, he couldn't give her what she needed. Fidelity. He was cheating, staying out all night, and they would argue a lot.
As the years went by, Keonta tried to hold her family together while the cheating continued.
Like, you need to leave me. Yeah, you always crying. You always upset.
But by 2009, Keonta had enough of the extramarital affairs. That year, she filed for divorce and moved closer to her family for support. Now, for the first time in almost 14 years, 33-year-old Keonta was single.
I believe her kids, the children, gave her the motivation that she needed to keep moving.
Determined to make a better life for herself and her children, Keonta re-enrolled in school and became a certified nursing assistant.
She worked faithfully at her job, so she was good at it. People loved her.
Between her work as a CNA and taking care of her own children, Keonta didn't have much time for romance. But she hoped one day she'd once again find true love.
She didn't have the body of a woman who's had 4 kids. She was pretty, so she got attention.
Attention like the kind Keonta received in 2011 during a routine trip to the grocery store.
My. This angel just walked into my store.
Do angels wear scrubs too?
I guess so. How you doing? My name is Calvin Bryant.
Hi, Calvin. I'm Keonta.
Every time she would go to the store, she went, oh my God, this guy, he just keeps talking to me. She was like, well, I finally gave him my number because he just wouldn't leave me alone. She told me he was nice, he was a gentleman. They started dating.
But once they did, things between Keonta and Calvin heated up quickly.
I wasn't sure about you at first. I'm glad you were persistent.
You look precious.
I just fell in love very easily.
Calvin clearly filled an emotional void in Keonta's life, and after a few months of dating, she asked him to move in with her and her children.
My mom seemed happy when he moved in. He seemed like a cool person.
The next few years seemed blissful. It appeared Keonta had finally found the happiness she had so desperately yearned for.
I was like, wow, he seems to really love you. Be like, God, I wish I had someone who loved me that much.
But as investigators arrive on the scene, the families of both Keonta and Calvin struggled to understand why this loving couple had vanished so suddenly. What nobody knows is that there was an emotional storm brewing in Keonta and Calvin's relationship, one that would lead to carnage and devastation of unthinkable magnitude.
Once the police started digging deeper into the situation, they were shocked to find a trail of love in so many lives.
Each one of them was no good for my daughter. None of them were worth taking my daughter.
It's the afternoon of February 9th, 2015, and detectives in Gainesville are meeting with Irma Dorsey to discuss the disappearance of her daughter, Keonta Williams, and her boyfriend, Calvin Bryant.
While Irma is concerned about Kelvin, her real concern is Keonta.
She was just emotionally all over the place, just doing whatever she could to find her daughter.
We understand your concern, Miss Dorsey. Do you mind if we ask you some questions? Might help us find your daughter?
Whatever you need. Whatever you need. At the top of the list of questions, police want to know more about the couple's personal life.
They had been together for 4 years, and he had been living in the house with her and her kids.
But like Keonta's relationship with her ex-husband, Jim Martin, the reality behind closed doors was much different than the life she presented to the outside world.
Hey, babe, can you grab me a drink?
Are you serious? You have 2 feet. Get it yourself. It looks like you had enough.
Calm down, baby. We're on the same team here.
Really, it was only the one issue in their relationship, and it was the same issue that Keonta had suffered through in her marriage. Kelvin had a hard time being faithful.
Apparently, while Keonta was at work, Kelvin had been spending a lot of time on the computer.
She would say, I went on the computer, and he has his profile. He had all these, like, dating accounts. Oh, I'm a single man looking for this, looking for that. And it's like, dude, you're not single.
Are you serious? Kelvin, what is this?
What are you talking about?
Why does this say you're single?
No, that's nothing, baby.
This is nothing? How dare you? In my house?
Irma tells detectives that Keonta endured the situation for months.
It was just account after account after account of just all these women. And then going through his phone, finding all these nude photos. Yeah.
After discovering the nude pics on Kelvin's phone, Keonta told those closest to her that she intended to end the relationship. But according to Irma, Keonta never officially cut the cord.
He had begged her to stay and, trying to work it out. When you put in that kind of time, it's like, well, I don't want it to all be for nothing. So you try to make it work.
As investigators listen to Irma's account, they can't help but wonder if the couple had simply slipped away for a few hours to work on their relationship.
Normally when we're dealing with adult missing persons, it's a little difficult to determine is somebody really missing or did they just walk away on their own accord.
When was the last time that you actually saw your daughter, Miss Dorsey? I mean, are we sure she's missing?
I am absolutely sure she was missing. Keonta would never leave the kids like that. She would just never do that. And her car's gone.
Though it's clear Keonta is devoted to her children, Irma does reveal that in recent weeks, Keonta had taken a page from Kelvin's playbook.
She had opened her own internet dating account and had started talking to other men. Nothing had gotten physical, but it was obvious she was getting ready to move on from Kelvin.
Keonta's recent online activity makes detectives wonder if Kelvin might have had something to do with her disappearance.
Maybe Kelvin had tracked her search history, or maybe Keonta had worked up the nerve to kick him out. And he wasn't happy either way.
I would have expected there would have been history, there would have been signs. We would have had domestic disturbance reports at least, if not domestic battery charges, but none of that presented in the history with our agency.
Like Keonta, Kelvin is also MIA. And until they can speak to him, authorities are no closer to understanding where Keonta is, or if she's even in trouble at all. But as they are wrapping up their interview with Irma Dorsey, she mentions something that raises an entirely different possibility.
Is there anything else that you think we need to be aware of?
Well, I do want to tell you this. It turns out that Keonta had had a run-in with a man from her past just weeks prior. It was her ex-husband, Jim Martin.
Calvin wanted to go to a family reunion for his family. And when they all got out there, Keonta come to find out Kelvin Bryant and him, the cousins.
Keonta? What you doing here?
I'm here with my boyfriend, Kelvin. Are you guys related?
That's my cousin.
Keonta really limited her contact with Jim over the years following their divorce, and so this was a big surprise to everyone, and it was not a welcomed one.
She was floored again. Bam! Come to find out, they couldn't stand each other.
This your new man? This is the guy you're bringing around my kids?
Are you serious?
Irma explains that there was no love lost between Jim and Kelvin. For detectives, this information begs a new question. Was Jim so upset about Keonta and Kelvin's budding romance that it drove him to commit murder?
The timing of this seemed like it was more than just a coincidence.
February 10th, 2015. Keonta Williams and Kelvin Bryant have been missing from their Gainesville, Florida home for more than 24 hours, and the search for them is intensifying. While it's true the couple had drifted apart in recent months, investigators are now focused on the revelation that just prior to the disappearance, Keonta's ex-husband Jim Martin had discovered that his cousin Kelvin was dating his ex-wife.
Obviously, police are going to want to talk to him as soon as possible, and this was a hope that proved remarkably easy to fulfill.
As it turns out, Keonta's ex-husband Jim had been staying with the children at Keonta's house ever since she disappeared.
He stayed with us. Then my grandma didn't like where it was going, so she kicked him out. And I was like, that's not really your place to kick him out, because we're still at my mom's place. Come on now. She's like, your mom wouldn't want him in here.
That afternoon, investigators questioned Jim Martin about his ex-wife's disappearance.
Where were you at yesterday?
I was at work yesterday. Look, you can ask my boss.
He provided a reasonable alibi that was pretty easy to confirm. He was at work during the time that Keonta went missing.
With that, Jim Martin is removed from the list of suspects.
So the question still rambles through everybody's mind. Where are they? Where's Kelvin? Where's Keonta?
To the family and investigators alike, this is pretty distressing. With each hour that passes, it's more likely that something devastating has happened.
In hopes of locating either Keonta or Kelvin, investigators file a motion to subpoena the couple's cell phone records. While awaiting the judge's approval, they issue a bolo, or be on the lookout, for both Keonta and Kelvin. Unfortunately, the bolo yields 0 viable leads. Fearful that the investigation is stalling out, detectives call in Keonta's sister, Shari McKnight, and her close friend, Shirley Collins, in hopes of learning more about Keonta's recent foray into online dating.
Thank you for coming in, ladies. I really just wanted you to come in so that hopefully we can get some more information about Keonta's online dating. So what can you tell me?
According to Shari and Shirley, Keonta had originally gone online in frustration over Kelvin's infidelity, but it quickly evolved into something more.
It started off as just something to do, and then over time, it became a little more serious with her and the guy that she met online. She would always talk about him.
Shari and Shirley explained that anytime that Keonta would get together with her friends, she would get all giddy about him.
How's things going with you and Kelvin?
You know, it is what it is, but I met someone new.
I think it was a truck driver. She really seemed to like him.
Does he have a name? He does. It is James. James Matthew.
Oh, James is cute.
Shari and Shirley explained that Keonta confided that they had been chatting for a few months now.
Oh, he's so funny, and we love him. Like, look at you, smiling again. I like that.
But Keonta's loved ones say they cautioned her to follow her head as much as her heart.
I had concerns about her meeting someone online, so I was like, just be careful. She was like, no, he's really nice. I was like, I don't like it. And she was like, oh, I'm telling you, he's good. When she heard mine was me, that was what it was. She showed me the picture of this guy online. That's gonna be my husband.
Keonta told her friends that James lived in Georgia and had asked her to move there to be with him.
I think he's perfect, and I'm in love.
So I'm like, well, what Kevin said. She like, well, I don't care. This is the person who I want to be with.
Well, you know I get it, and I would be surprised if Kelvin didn't understand too.
And so I'm like, why would he get mad if he's been cheating on you throughout your whole relationship, and then you tell him you don't want to be with him? But she didn't have no worries, so without her having no worries, I didn't have any worries.
But what if Kelvin hadn't been quite so understanding? Or what if Keonta had found herself in the clutches of an online predator? What investigators soon learn about the hours leading up to Keonta and Kelvin's disappearance will only heighten this mystery.
My first thought was, this guy online. So, oh my God.
In February of 2015, Gainesville, Florida police are racing to track down 39-year-old Keonta Williams and her boyfriend of 4 years, Kelvin Bryant.
Detectives had learned that there were problems in this relationship and that Kelvin and Keonta both had other people on the side. So this situation only heightened the mystery of whether or not Kelvin and Keonta's disappearance was intentional or not.
Hoping to learn more details about the hours leading up to Kelvin and Keonta's disappearances, investigators begin interviewing Keonta's children. Of particular interest is whether or not any of them knew anything about their mother's new love interest, a trucker from Georgia Keonta met online who goes by the name James Matthews.
Is there any chance that your mother was involved with any other men besides Kelvin?
Yeah, she was on a couple of dating sites maybe, and she was talking to this guy.
Her daughter was able to tell me that she knew her mother had met a man online and had told her the night before that she was going out to the next city south of us to meet with that person.
Despite chatting for months, the two of them had not had many opportunities to see each other, so she was very excited about seeing him that night.
I think he was a truck driver.
Truck driver? Okay. They were planning on meeting?
Yes, I think Ocala on Sunday night.
Did either of you see her before she left on Sunday?
Yeah, she said she was going to meet with a friend. She was like, I should be back by like 5:30. And I was like, but it's 11. She was like, in the morning.
To some, this might seem like a weird time for a first date, but both of these people worked odd schedules. So they were meeting at an all-night diner at a truck stop just to talk for a few hours and get to know each other better.
All right, Xavier, I'm leaving. Yes, lovely.
You safe?
I will. I always am. Make sure you wake up Jordan in the morning so I can take him to school when I get back.
All right.
Xavier tells detectives he did exactly as his mother asked, but the only adult he saw between then and the morning was his mother's boyfriend, Kelvin.
I woke up around 4:50, went to the bathroom. It was like 5 o'clock, like on a dot. And Calvin walked out the room. He had his jacket on and everything, like he's gonna go to work. So I was like, okay, that's normal.
What wasn't normal, however, is that there was no sign of their mother a few hours later.
When I learned that she went to go meet someone online, that was the direction. I was like, this is the last person to see our Keonta. Said this is the person responsible for her disappearance.
People love online dating because it's convenient, it's fast, it's easy. But the flip side to that is that it can also be very dangerous. You just don't really know if the person on the other end is who they say they are.
But if Keonta's online love interest was somehow involved in her disappearance, why is Kelvin still missing as well?
Maybe Kelvin had reached out to Keonta herself and couldn't find her. Maybe she called him saying she was in danger. He could have even gone out that morning to look for her and run into trouble himself.
With each passing hour, detectives feel an increased pressure to find the missing couple. It's clear the key lies in tracking down James Matthews. But how would they find him? Keonta's family thinks they might know the answer.
Sherry, do you know anything about this James Matthews person that they're mentioning?
She used her computer to do some online dating, meet guys. I can get it if you...
Okay, yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
We found out the password. They got on it. Cops was looking at it.
This
Yeah.
is the site? Yep. Does it say anything about the location of the user?
Yeah.
In fact, the app had a GPS feature that shows live tracking based upon the user's approximate phone location, and James had this turned on.
Said that he'd stop in like Alabama or something like that.
Okay, Detective Beveridge, can you reach out to the local Alabama police while I keep talking to the family, please?
I'm on it.
Okay.
While Detective Beveridge works to track down the mysterious James Matthews, Detective Marzook Brainerd continues questioning the family and makes another bizarre discovery.
Okay, Jordan, honey, we're doing everything that we can to find your mom, okay? Is there anything that you might remember that can be helpful?
I saw Mommy Monday morning.
This was a completely shocking revelation. By Jordan's account, this would have occurred somewhere around 5 a.m. on February 9th.
Jordan? Jordan, baby, it's time to wake up.
She told him to get ready for school, take a bath, and she was going to get gas and come back and take him to school.
Jordan says as he began to crawl out of bed, he heard his mom outside his window.
He was half awake, peeped out his window, thought he saw someone in the shadowy lamps.
There was an exchange of vulgarities. and then heard her speed out of the driveway. And that was the last he saw of Keonta. Interviews like this are always tough with kids. It's hard to say whether it's true or if it's part of a young kid's imagination.
If what Jordan says is the truth, then Keonta had in fact returned home from her late-night meetup with James Matthews. But it also makes her disappearance and that of Kelvin Bryant all the more confusing.
Are you sure, Jordan?
Yes.
You sure, baby?
Yes. So was it Kelvin out there, or was it the truck driver arguing with her?
Either way, detectives are determined to follow up on the information provided by young Jordan. They start by visiting the gas station located just down the road from Keonta's residence.
They obtained security footage and began scrubbing through the footage looking for any sign of Keonta, Kelvin, or even James, the man Keonta supposedly met the night before.
Scrolling through the footage, detectives determined that Keonta arrived at the gas station at approximately 6 a.m. the morning of February 9th.
She stopped at one of the pumps there, put some fuel in her vehicle, the black SUV, and she leaves the gas station.
But as tantalizing as the footage is, it's also remarkable for another reason.
The footage shows Keonta alone at the gas station. Calvin was not present, and neither was James Matthews.
For investigators, it's one more mystifying puzzle piece, but how does it fit all together? Unfortunately, it's a mystery that's about to take a darker, more sinister turn.
It was very obvious that from the amount of blood that was in the vehicle that someone was seriously injured or someone had been killed.
Around 6 a.m. on the morning of her disappearance, a security camera at a service station in Gainesville, Florida, captured Keonta Williams alive and well. But what happened to Keonta and her missing boyfriend, Kelvin Bryant, after that still remains a mystery.
Investigators at this point know that Keonta and her boyfriend, Kelvin Bryant, are on the outs and that she's fallen hard for a trucker named James Matthews. But neither of these two men were caught on camera that morning, so there's no way to know for certain if either of these two men were responsible for her disappearance or if it was someone else entirely.
Finally, 24 hours into the investigation, there's a break in the case. With the help of police in Georgia, detectives in Gainesville managed to locate James Matthews along one of his trucking routes, just north of the Florida-Georgia state line. Within hours, James is sitting in an interview room, waiting to be questioned by detectives.
Mr. Matthews? I'm Detective Marza Brainerd.
Yes, what's this about?
We're investigating the disappearance of Keonta Williams, and we have reason to believe that you may be one of the last people to have seen her.
Well, what?
When was the last time that you spoke to Keonta?
Well, we met early Monday morning at a truck stop. We ate, sat down, hung out a bit, and then, well, you know.
She had left him perfectly in one piece, and they parted ways in the middle of the night or later early that Monday morning.
Okay, where was the truck stop?
Ocala.
Okay, so you weren't in Gainesville that night?
No.
Did you have a problem with the fact that Keonta was still living with another man?
Look, she said they were not together, all right? Check my truck log.
He was cooperative. He had information he could prove he was not in the Gainesville area on the morning of the 9th.
We had the police from their follow-up to verify that the story he was giving us was correct.
Not only is James Matthews' story confirmed by his employer, it gels with the statements given by Keonta's oldest son, Xavier.
So at this point, all suspicion falls back on Calvin.
The family was concerned. They just wanted to be reassured that law enforcement was doing everything that we could to find her.
But the case is about to take another bizarre turn.
Kelvin showed up at his sister's residence late Tuesday night on the 10th.
Kelvin!
As she exited her car, her brother came out of the dark SUV from the driver's compartment.
Kelvin, are you okay? She's aware that the couple has been reported missing. Kelvin is disheveled and just seems out of it. Let's go inside.
She said, come on in, and I have food for you, and so she fed him.
His clothes have some odd stains on them and smell like he's been wearing them a few days.
So she left the home, gave him some kind of ruse of why she was leaving, then called us.
Within the hour, detectives and patrolmen from the Alachua County Sheriff's Office descend on the residence.
Right.
Alachua County Sheriff's Department, come out. He ended up coming out on his own. He was quiet, didn't say much. He was just placing handcuffs.
As Kelvin Bryant stews in the back of a squad car, detectives search Keonta's SUV. While there's no sign of Keonta, what they find is disturbing.
There was blood spatter all over this vehicle, but most of it was concentrated in the front passenger seat.
Investigators attempt to question Kelvin about the blood, but he isn't exactly forthcoming.
His demeanor was kind of just not there. You know, he didn't want to talk about it. He was kind of out of it.
While Keonta's SUV is towed to the police impound lot for further processing, detectives escort Kelvin Bryant back to the station for questioning.
They just refused to answer questions.
He never made any denials or made any statements confirming he did have any sort of involvement.
With Kelvin refusing to answer questions, police instead begin collecting physical evidence from him.
He was wearing a heavier jacket, a t-shirt, dark blue jeans. We collected the clothing after he was arrested that night.
As the forensic unit begins processing Kelvin's clothing, they discover something odd.
He was wearing it inside out. Once it was turned right side out, we noticed numerous stains that could have possibly been blood.
The only questions that remain are if those stains are indeed blood, and if that blood belongs to Keonta Williams.
Though the evidence doesn't give investigators everything they need to charge Kelvin with murder, they do have enough evidence to book him on the charge of grand theft auto.
Until DNA tests came back matching the blood on Calvin's clothes and the blood in Keonta's vehicle to Keonta's DNA, there's no proof of a violent crime. Still, police don't want to take a chance letting a potentially dangerous man out on the street.
I was very, very upset. It took me completely by surprise.
Now that Kelvin Bryant is safely behind bars, investigators' number one priority is locating Keonta.
I had concerns that he had seriously injured her and dumped her somewhere.
But without Keonta's cell phone records, pinpointing her whereabouts will be difficult. Thankfully, the following morning, a judge signs off on the subpoena granting investigators access to Kelvin and Keonta's cell phones and the GPS data that was tracking the two devices.
We received information from one of the search warrants we did that the morning of the 9th. Those phones traveled from Alachua County all the way to Volusia County.
With a renewed sense of urgency, authorities order an extensive search of the terrain.
It was crucial to hit the ground running with searching. So they searched by air, they searched on land to find this woman.
But as the days and then weeks roll by, it's clear finding Keonta will be no easy task.
It was kind of like finding a needle in a haystack.
60 days after Keonta disappeared, there's still no sign of her. Kelvin Bryant is still refusing to talk, and the case is nowhere closer to being resolved. For Keonta's family and friends, the pain is almost too much to bear.
This purgatory that the family was in was devastating, and none were more affected than her children.
Our youngest, he was her baby. He just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. He was like, I want my mama. And I said, well, let's, pray.
But would the family's prayers be answered? As those closest to the case are about to find out, it's indeed always darkest before dawn.
To get my child, that I did. I was not going to ever be closed if I didn't fight.
It was just too hard, not knowing. And in the midst of all of that, you keep getting these false, people, oh yeah, they found her body. And I called the district attorney and was like, no, we haven't found anything. And that happened, I want to say 2 or 3 times. And I just remember praying and I was like, Lord, I'll accept it for what it is. Just bring it to an end.
On April 9th, 2015, 8 weeks after Keonta Williams' disappearance, authorities in Alachua County, Florida believe she has in fact been murdered, and that they have the man responsible in custody.
her live-in boyfriend, 41-year-old Kelvin Bryant.
During this time, DNA tests for the blood found on Kelvin's clothes and in Keonta's vehicle came back.
They did positively ID the blood is belonging to Kiana Williams.
Kelvin is already being held on the charge of grand theft auto, but without Keonta's body, the grand jury has been slow to issue a murder indictment against him.
Everyone had been searching for Keonta for more than a month, to no avail.
Finally, the grand jury agrees there is sufficient evidence to charge Kelvin with Keonta's murder.
With the indictment for first-degree murder, Kelvin Bryant was facing a mandatory life sentence.
But for Keonta's mother, Irma Dorsey, a conviction isn't enough. Finding her daughter's remains is what matters most.
It was coming up to Keonta's birthday, and I was in overdrive. And I told him, you and it ain't about you, it's about me. And I want my child.
Irma wanted her daughter home and to pay proper respects and proper burial, and that the kids could also have that closure as well.
The family of Keonta asked us to try and resolve the case by having Kelvin Bryant tell us where Keonta was in exchange for a large term of years in prison. And that's what we did.
The agreement was Mr. Bryant would show law enforcement where Ms. Williams' body was located and an admission of guilt.
Kelvin ultimately decided to take the deal, and on April 9, 2015, he led a convoy of police and prosecutors outside Gainesville.
It was kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and he said, between this area and this area is where she'll be. We got out and started what we call a grid search.
He said her body's going to be in this narrow stretch road somewhere in this ditch line. And we located her body.
She's there, Calvin. It's clear. I mean, she's pretty intact, it looks like. You did the right thing.
There was some injuries on her, consistent with being stabbed.
Can you tell me how close now? I think we can see. On the other side of the fence. And it's a kitchen knife, like a steak knife.
Operating off of this description, investigators soon recover the murder weapon, a 6-inch steak knife. When Keonta's loved ones learn of the development, they're devastated, but also relieved.
61 days. No one knows the pain. I would have traded places in a heartbeat.
I pray she didn't suffer. I just wanted to know what happened.
With the recovery of Keonta's body, it seems the only mystery remaining is how this brutal crime unfolded. It's Kelvin Bryant who fills in the missing details.
Kelvin, are you crazy? You scared me.
That morning, Kelvin says Keonta returned home around 5 a.m. She went to get gas, and when she returned to the couple's home, they got into an argument.
Who's that guy I saw you with?
What do you care? You've been cheating on me this whole time.
It's not right. We still live together.
We're over. When are you gonna accept that?
Kelvin Bryant still had emotional feelings for Keonta Williams for him to get so upset that she had gone out on a date the night before.
Concerned that her children would hear them arguing, Keonta suggests they take a quick drive and discuss their relationship.
While driving northbound through the county,
I'm not leaving.
The two of them continue to argue until they pulled onto the county road. At some point in time during that, Miss Williams told Kelvin to get out of the vehicle.
We are going to finish this. You know what? You're right.
Kelvin, really?
Before he got out of the car, he turned the car off, grabbed the keys, and threw them in the floorboard.
Kelvin, are you serious? That was so childish. What's wrong with you? I don't have time to be out here arguing with you. I gotta get back to the kids.
Obviously, now she's that much madder. They're arguing on the passenger side of the car, which is facing towards the ditch area.
This is your fault.
My fault? My fault? All right. As soon as I get my keys, I'm gonna call the cops, and we'll see.
So at this point, he just lost it.
Kelvin grabs the kitchen knife that Keonta kept beneath the passenger seat for security.
He stabbed her multiple times. Even he's not sure how many times he stabbed her.
He said at some point he passed out. When he came to, he realized, crap, what have I done?
After discarding her body there at the roadside, he got back in the vehicle and fled the area. She was left there in the ditch line. He was angry with her. He snapped.
With a crime of passion, we can't measure someone's love based on, how could you kill this person? People do a lot of things when they're in emotional pain.
I think he did love her, but I think he realized he was also losing her, losing the relationship.
She was just trying to move on. It triggered an insane jealousy in Calvin that turned deadly.
Though detectives still believe the crime may have been premeditated, their hands are tied by the terms of Kelvin's plea deal.
Kelvin Bryant entered a plea to second-degree murder. It wasn't until we had this agreement that he was willing to come out and show us where Kiana Williams' body was.
On April 21st, 2015, Kelvin Bryant is sentenced to 35 years in prison without the possibility of parole. While Keonta's loved ones are relieved justice has been served, they wish there was more they could have done to prevent this tragedy from ever happening.
I wish that she would have done something, as in change the locks, as in move. Anything to stay away from him. To raise my awareness, watch the signs, and be aware of them, and get out early. Keonta's lost her life, and children have lost their parents.
Her only crime was just loving too easily, and too hard, and too fast. She just wanted to have that family. Be careful who you bring around your children. Take time to know a person. Don't move a man into your house over your children. Because you never know.
Liên Quân Mobile. Chi khung. Hả? Lười nhanh. Ây da. Lại làm chi? Cứ thế mà chơi thôi. Hả? Cái gì? Đây. Ok. Đánh đường. Chịu rồi, nói thế thì chịu rồi. Mình đây đánh thường hàng ngày luôn đó. Trời, đánh thường nhiều hơn đánh răng. Ồ, quá đâu trời. Chi ạc đấy leo thách đấu không nói làm chi. Không biết gì ha. Toàn người khác cày chứ tôi cày đâu. Thời gian đâu. Thời gian để không đủ nói gì để ra. Gì trời đúng. Thời gian côn không đủ nói gì thì ra làm gì. Chúng ta có thể đánh thường mà. Để xem là nick như vẫn con nick chứ chắc không đấy cũng được. Nhặt xong đi rồi chơi đấy. Ai dạ đâu.
Nếu tính như vậy thì lao động bên Nhật bây giờ không cao hơn đáng kể so với Việt Nam. Vì mức lương 15 triệu ở Việt Nam trong nhiều ngành nghề bây giờ là khá phổ biến. Đó là chưa kể đến
Ủa có thì chắc có bạch kim chắc có là khó quá ta đi nữa. Nạp đi, nạp nốt đi. Ui. Dạ. Alo. Ok đây. Trời ơi. Đâu mà. Ok, dạo liền. Tôi thấy có để nhìn. Cái gì đây? Đỗ quyên là gì anh? Ý là có tác dụng gì không? Không. No. Con ổ chết tiệt cúc.